So here I have the blank document from the last video, where I had created a main assembly, a subassembly, and then this part underneath the first subassembly. So this part I had created with this new component feature, which I'll just, to review that, let me copy the number, delete that and recreate it. So new component, leave everything as default, set the name, and say OK. Now you'll notice when I created this, by default this part was activated, which is indicated by this little dot here. So what that means is as I go forward, so I'll go ahead with creating a sketch for this part. This sketch will be created in a folder underneath this part. So you'll see it shows up here and here. If you hadn't selected it, it would have shown up in a folder up here under the main assembly, which, if you're doing a small project, might be fine, but it can quickly run into problems if you have 10 sketches that are all in a top-level folder, and it can be very hard to sort through and figure out which one is the one you want to work on. So I always make sure the part is activated before I create the sketch, so it shows up here. Now let's create a sketch, make sure that it's defined. Make this a square tube, so I'll offset this by a small amount, inward, and finish. So there I have a fully defined sketch for my first part. Now next I will extrude that for a bit into a part, and you'll notice what happened is it put this now as a body also under that selected part. And this again just helps with organization. All your bodies for this part are under this part and not up at your top level. Now, before I go back to the top level to create a second part, I like to group my timeline features. So to do this, I'll select both of them and say Create Group. So what this means now is that I can exit out of this part and see all those operations are still showing up under a group. This just helps keep the timeline clean as I add more parts, joints, being able to collapse the groups of operations used to make parts and cleanly scan through to find the group you need. Now, next I'll just create a second part, quickly to run through that. So, new component, we'll call it part 2. Part number 2. Again, leave things as default. You'll see this pops up as the second part. So let me just quickly create another part to show a few things about what it'll look like when I have two parts in a file. So again, I will group these and go back to the top. So looking at my file, I have no top-level sketches or bodies. Instead, they're classified per part, which helps me find stuff. So if I want to, say, edit this part here, I can click on it and quickly see, okay, that's part 1. Now what sketches go with it? There's the sketch that goes with it. And now I can easily change that, and everything updates. If I wanted to edit this part, it's sketch 1 underneath that part, and I can go edit that there. So this method just helps keep your bodies and sketches organized so you can quickly find the parts you need. So while I was making these components, you may have heard me mention that a sketch was fully defined. The next video I'm going to talk more about what fully defined means, both in the context of creating a sketch as well as in the context of aligning the components in an assembly file.